Welcome to Kaywon Action Star. I'm glad to have you back here. Thank you for supporting me by always tuning in when you see my videos. It means a lot to me. So let's get into today's recap story. Max woke up to realize that his dreams were nothing more than fragments of the past, memories of his family and a time long gone.
Bye, Mom.
Yeah.
Max woke up to find that his dreams had just been the stuff of pipes.
I have a family.
The story begins with two bookies being attacked and killed separately by unknown assailants. Elsewhere, a young man is taken out by a sniper. Meanwhile, at a bus station, a mysterious man named Smith approaches another young guy and starts talking about someone named Max and a concept called the Kansas City Shuffle. It turns out that years ago, Max got himself into deep trouble. He borrowed money from the mob to bet on a fixed horse race. However, the plan fell apart when the horse suddenly died mid-race. Furious, the mob made an example of Max by killing him, his wife, and their young son, Henry. As Smith explains, the Kansas City Shuffle is a deceptive double bluff, right before he tricks and kills the young man he was speaking to. He then loads the body onto a truck and drives off. Fast forward to New York, we meet our protagonist, Slevin Calabro. He has just finished shaving when he wipes the steam off the mirror, revealing a badly broken nose. Before he can process much, someone starts pounding on his door. Still wrapped in a towel, he calls out that he's coming, but the knocking persists. When he finally opens the door, a woman named Lindsay barges in as if she owns the place. She seems completely unfazed by the fact that the man standing in front of her is not who she expected, someone named Nick. Slevin jokes about how her knocking made him think she was taller than she really is, but Lindsay ignores his humor and immediately asks about his broken nose. He explains that he got punched by someone he wasn't expecting, then launches into a story about his streak of bad luck. First, he lost his job, then he discovered that his apartment building was being demolished, and to top it all off, he caught his girlfriend Kelly in bed with another man. With no other options, he decided to visit his friend Nick in New York. However, on his way there, while talking to Nick on the phone at the airport, a stranger approached him asking for a cigarette. The next thing he knew, the man demanded money and punched him in the face, breaking his nose. Lindsay listens but points out that he actually listed 4 bad things, not 3. She also finds it odd that the mugger didn't take his bag or expensive-looking watch. Before she can dig deeper, Slevin changes the subject by asking for her name. When she inquires about Nick, Slevin admits he hasn't seen him yet. He let himself into Nick's place because the door was already unlocked. Then the phone rings. Slevin picks up, but the caller immediately hangs up. Lindsay, being naturally curious, dials the number back and pretends she called the wrong one. She finds out the call came from the Hotel Shavel. Now intrigued, she tells Slevin that since they know who he called, the next step is figuring out who called Nick. Clearly enjoying her detective moment, she even throws in a reference to Columbo before calling another number, which connects to the same hotel. Convinced that Nick might be in danger, she suggests that the mystery caller could be an important lead. As Lindsay realizes she's late for work, she rushes out, only to come running back because she forgot the sugar she originally came to borrow. However, as she returns, she accidentally catches Slevin mid-movement, getting an unintentional full view of what the towel was covering. Embarrassed, she flees again. Slevin just laughs it off and heads back to the bathroom. Not long after, the doorbell rings again. Thinking Lindsay forgot something else, he opens the door, only to find 2 men, Elvis and Slow, standing there. They work for someone called the Boss. Without waiting for an invitation, they grab Slevin and drag him away, mistaking him for Nick. The Boss is a powerful crime lord who lives in a high-security penthouse. When Slevin is brought before him, he tries to keep things light, engaging in witty banter. But the Boss isn't in the mood for jokes. He gets straight to the point. Slevin, who he believes is Nick, owes him $96,000 in gambling debts. Instead of demanding money, the Boss offers a deal. To clear the debt, Slevin must kill someone, the son of the rabbi, another powerful crime boss. The rabbi isn't just any criminal, he is a real, ordained rabbi. His son, Yitzchak, nicknamed the Fairy due to his sexuality, is the target. The boss wants revenge, believing the rabbi was responsible for the murder of his own son. After explaining the job, the boss dismisses Slevin. Still reeling from this unexpected situation, Slevin leaves the boss's place. Meanwhile, the boss has a private conversation with none other than Smith, the man from the opening scene. Smith had already been hired to kill the fairy, prompting the boss to question why he didn't just handle it himself. Smith cryptically responds that he will be killing someone, just maybe not who the boss expects. Outside, two men sitting inside a van disguised as a plumbing truck snap a photo of Slevin. One tells the other that they need to make a call to someone named Brikoski because there's a new face in town. Back at Nick's apartment, Slevin tries to process everything when Lindsay shows up again, eager to drag him to the Hotel Shavel. She's convinced they need to check it out to find Nick. Since she has a friend working at the hotel, she believes they can get insider information on who made the mysterious phone call. As Slevin flips through a newspaper, a headline catches his eye: Slim Hopkins has vanished without a trace. The irony. Slim himself had been linked to several other unexplained disappearances. Casually, Slevin tells Lindsay that he actually met Slim, but when he did, the guy was already dead. Before Lindsay can react, her phone rings from inside her apartment. Thinking it might be her roommate from the hotel, she rushes off to answer it. While she's gone, Slevin starts getting dressed. Suddenly, two men in traditional Hasidic attire show up, informing him that someone named Shlomo wants to speak with him. Slevin protests, claiming he doesn't know any Shlomo, but his resistance earns him a punch to the gut. Before he knows it, he's being dragged off, this time to meet the rabbi. On the way, he notices something: they are heading to the same building as the boss. However, his captors quickly correct him: the rabbi actually lives in the building across the street. It turns out the boss and the rabbi were once business partners, but after their fallout, they became sworn enemies. They have spent years trying and failing to kill each other, both too afraid to leave the safety of their respective penthouses. When Slevin finally meets the rabbi, their conversation turns into a verbal chess match, each trying to outmaneuver the other. Eventually, the rabbi drops a bombshell: Slevin, still mistaken for Nick, owes him $33,000. Despite Slevin's protests, the rabbi gives him 48 hours to come up with the money. After Slevin is escorted out, the rabbi makes a cryptic phone call, mentioning that half of a promised payment has already been transferred to an offshore account and that the rest will be sent once an old friend is dead. Enter Smith. The rabbi inquires about Slevin, but Smith only states that he and the kid have unfinished business. Later, Slevin tells the boss that he will take care of the ferry. Meanwhile, Smith is pulling the strings from behind the scenes, ensuring that Nick's debts are being called in while setting the stage for Slevin's assassination. He manipulates events so that when the fairy is killed, it will look like a murder-suicide, with Slevin conveniently in the presence of both crime bosses. As events unfold, the truth begins to emerge: Slevin isn't Nick Fisher at all, he's Henry Mack, Max's son. Smith had secretly raised him, training him for this very moment, a long-awaited act of revenge. Slevin and Lindsay make plans to have dinner, but before that, Slevin arranges a meeting with the fairy. At the same time, Detective Brikoski, who has been keeping tabs on the boss and the rabbi, starts looking into Slevin. Brikoski, a former high-stakes gambler, had past dealings with one of the now-dead bookies. He has also caught wind that Smith is back in town after a 2-decade absence. Sensing a connection between Smith, Slevin, the boss, and the rabbi, he begins digging deeper. Later, when Brikoski keeps pestering Slevin for information, Slevin finally gives him his full name. But there's more at play than Brikoski realizes. That evening, Slevin heads to the fairy's apartment, where they share a brief conversation before Slevin kills him. However, before he can react, Smith appears. Instead of killing Slevin, Smith finishes off the fairy himself. It is then revealed that Slevin and Smith have been working together all along. As part of their plan, Slevin produces the real Nick Fisher's body. Smith, always thinking ahead, swiftly eliminates the fairy's bodyguards. Knowing they would storm in at the first sign of trouble, Smith had preemptively set a trap, taking them out the moment they entered through a hidden passage. With the job complete, they rig the apartment to explode, erasing all evidence. Meanwhile, the boss and the rabbi wake up tied to chairs in the boss's penthouse. They are both confused, their heads throbbing, when the door opens, and Slevin walks in. He coolly reveals the truth: the two men who orchestrated the murder of Max and his family all those years ago were none other than the boss and the rabbi themselves. And Slevin. He isn't Nick Fisher, he's Henry Mack, Max's son, who survived that night. Smith, the man originally sent to kill young Henry, had a change of heart. Instead of carrying out the hit, he took the boy in and raised him as his own, training him to one day seek revenge. Slevin reveals that he and Smith meticulously dismantled the bosses and the rabbis' criminal empires, killing their bookies and stealing their financial records. They used Nick Fisher's identity to infiltrate both sides, calling in debts to maneuver themselves into their enemies' strongholds. Even the murder of the fairy was strategic. It forced the boss to hire Smith, unknowingly setting his own execution in motion. Likewise, the rabbi had been tricked into thinking Smith would protect his son in exchange for calling in Nick's debts. In reality, all of these moves were designed to bring both crime lords to this very moment. With everything in place, Slevin executes the final step of his plan. He places plastic bags over the bosses and the rabbis' heads, suffocating them just as they had once done to his father. They struggle, but it is futile. Their reign of terror ends the same way they had ended Max's life, mercilessly. As Smith leaves the scene, he shoots Lindsay. She had taken a picture of him while investigating Nick's disappearance, making her a liability. Slevin watches as she falls, lifeless, before he disappears into the night. Elsewhere, Detective Brikowski gets a phone call. While keeping an eye out for Slevin, he finally pieces together the truth about the alias, Slevin Calabro. The name holds significance. Lucky number Slevin was the horse Max bet on the day everything went wrong. Calabro translates to bad dog in Hebrew, a callback to Smith's nickname. It all clicks. Brikowski suddenly realizes his own grim fate. He was the one who killed Slevin's mother 20 years ago to settle his own gambling debts. Before Brikowski can react, he senses something in the back seat of his car. He turns, and there Slevin sits, calm and composed. A single gunshot echoes into the night. The final loose end is tied. But this isn't the end. At a bus terminal, Slevin is unexpectedly reunited with Lindsay, alive and well. It turns out that while Smith had ordered him to kill her, Slevin couldn't go through with it. Instead, he revealed his true identity to her and helped fake her death. When Smith meets with Slevin one last time, Slevin explains why he spared Lindsay. Smith, understanding, acknowledges that Slevin saved Lindsay just as he had once saved him. As a final parting gesture, Smith hands Slevin his father's old watch before disappearing into the shadows. As Slevin stands at the bus terminal, the weight of his revenge lifted, he glances at the watch, a symbol of the past he has finally avenged. The cycle of violence has ended, and for the first time, he is free to move forward. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done that. Also give my video a thumbs up to motivate me. See you on our next recap. Cheers.